Hello everyone, good morning. Good morning, balcony 2. This year I thought I always greet the balcony above there first, but also a warm welcome to you. It's the wonderful first moment and morning of Berlinale Talents public, because yesterday we kicked off with the 252 talents from 77 different countries. They're sitting among you, so many are there. Hopefully you met them already. I see some familiar faces. And now also welcome to the Berliners. Thank you very much for joining us here in the Hau Hebel am Ufer. Good morning. And since it's about mistakes and how to fail better this year, we just want to do something very right this moment and this morning. We are speaking about the environments in which you can make mistakes, in which you feel safe, and of course in which you can also do a lot of right things. And without any further ado, I'm very proud that I can welcome here members of the international jury, or I think waiting for them already. And please so give a warm welcome here to the kitchen table to Sandra Hüller, Justin Chang, to Rajendra Roy and Sebastián Lelio. We should make ourselves comfortable here on the table. That's nice.
On the table.
On the table. Yeah, I always do this mistake with on the table. And how do you say it right? Is it at the table? Under the table, probably. Yeah. So, nice to have you here with us. It is, as I just said, also a talent meeting, and the talents are here also on stage with us. And with the specialty, I think, with this year's jury, again, is that we have so many members from so many different fields of work. And I will introduce you briefly to those who are sitting here today. Just feel very warmly welcomed again from your different disciplines as well. Also, you will find them here in the audience. We have actors here, directors, curators, and of course also film critics, which I'm very happy. And I will give you just a very quick tour through the lives of these four, because afterwards we will speak about it in length. Sandra Hüller first. Thank you very much for joining us. It's actually the first time here on stage at Hau Hebel am Ufer, as we heard. Normally you're sitting in the audience, right?
Yes, normally I'm watching wonderful pieces here, theater pieces or performances.
So Sandra, you studied as Ernst Busch. It's an acting school here in Berlin, quite well-known one, I would say the most well-known one, at the age of 17, which is not that I mentioned it as long ago, it's just also that it's a very young age. Probably it was nothing special that day, so we can speak about it. But also we know, and Germans know her from a lot of other theater stages around Germany, from Jena, Leipzig, Basel, the Ruhr Triennale, which I like a lot, and also, of course, from films. And we will show some excerpts over the course of the session. There's one film which is very much connected to the Berlinale and also, I think, to your career, because it was the first feature you made, Requiem from 2006. Hans Christian Schmidt's film, Brownian Movement. Nanook Leopold is coming by the end of the week and join us at Berlinale Talents. So I just watched the film again. Finsterworld from Frauke Finsterwalder, great film. Amour Fou, Berlin in the Romantic era, so a period piece from Jessica Hausner. And of course, Toni Erdmann. Many of you, probably everyone has seen it. Has everyone seen the film? Okay, good. Well done. Maren Ades 2016 film, a wonderful film, as we all know. And there's also another film which is, I think, very fond to us. I'm also speaking personally from the Berlinale team, which is In den Gängen, in the Aisles. That was at last year's Berlinale, Thomas Stuber's film. Wonderful film as well. So lots of more awards here on this paper, but I just leave it by that.
Yeah.
Sandra Hüller. Applause. Raj, hello, welcome to the family again. Raj, the Celeste Bartos chief curator, I try to look up what is it, Celeste Bartos?
She was an amazing patron, and we are now the same person because I am welcomed as Mrs. Bartos very often, but it's not me, it's her. But yeah.
So, Mrs. Bartos. Okay, the Celeste Bartos, Chief Curator of Film at the MoMA since 2007. So I tried to count correctly, and I think that was at the age of 34 that you became the Chief Film Curator. And you took over the position from a lady, her name is Mary Lee Bandy, who was in this position for 26 years, so almost your entire life at that point.
Why are you doing this? This is horrible.
I'm just find it so amazing. It's just we don't care about anything.
It's been a privilege. For sure.
And you brought quite a number of exhibitions to the MoMA in the meantime. So I just mentioned some. Bruce LaBruce in 2015, Wim Wenders, the good old German director, the Weimar Touch. The Berlin School, which we will talk about. Is Wim here probably? So, hello.
Hey, Wim.
The Berlin School, films from the Berliner Schule. There's actually the book here. Tim Burton, 2011, and also Mike Nichols. You are a member, and I'm going now to what you're also doing. You are the member of the selection committee for New Directors, New Films. That's really a festival.
Looking at all of you.
You should come. And it's a film in the festival in cooperation with the Film Center, with the Film Society of the Lincoln Center every year, coming up very soon. You've been the programming director and also the artistic director of the Hamptons Film Festival, so quite a lot of other jobs before. You've been at the Guggenheim Museum. And also, and this is something I discovered now for the first time, you worked as the executive director at the Mix Film Festival, which is an experimental art film festival in New York.
So the resume of that is, he's fucking old.
I hope this doesn't become the topic of this day here, but speaking about mistakes, probably I did it just wrong. And why I said family member, of course, Raj has also been with us in the selection committee from 2004 to 2008. Applause. Sebastián Lelio, speaking about Berliners, I just discovered when we sat backstage, you left Berlin. So I wanted to introduce you as the one who's living in Kreuzberg, but I think probably something of Berlin remains in your heart. Born in Santiago de Chile?
No. I was born in Argentina.
In Argentina?
Yes.
Grown up in Santiago de Chile,
yes.
Let me guess?
Yeah.
Good. Studied at the film school, and your first, some documentaries, some short films, probably as always, but the first film, feature-length film, was La Sagrada Familia in 2005. And when I looked through these many films afterwards, I saw you have quite a variety of different festivals you've been with your films. So that film premiered at San Sebastián, afterwards 28 international awards, very good for a start, I would say, not bad. Navidad premiered at Cannes Directors Fortnight, El Año de Tigre in 2011, Locarno, so you came a bit closer to Berlin. Yeah. Then Gloria, 2013, finally here in competition, very nice, and then we never let you go again, I think. So because you won a Silver Bear, or your main actress won a Silver Bear, Paulina Garcia. And then in 2017, you just came back with A Fantastic Woman. This, once again, Teddy Award.
Thank you.
A Silver Bear for the best script, and also, of course, an Academy Award for the best foreign language film. So
Mistakes.
Yeah, things can happen. Just recently, you've made Disobedience with Rachel Weisz and Rachel McAdams, the two Rachels. Then Gloria Bell, 2018, just the latest film, the newest film, which premiered in Toronto. It is a US remake of Gloria, can we say that?
Yeah,
okay,
it is.
Good. Okay, interesting, with Julianne Moore. And then, of course, I wanted to mention the way how you came to Berlin. I think it was first a stipendium by the DAAD. This is a good way for us to attract people who then move to Kreuzberg. So let's keep it like this. Applause to this gentleman. And last but very not least, it won't take, by the way, 90 minutes. We are done almost. But I will give my time, I will take some time for Justin Chang, welcome as well. You've been a film critic, or you are a film critic at the Los
Mistakes.
Angeles Times. Mistakes, yes. Oh, Jesus Christ, but we have good excuses. Since 2016, previously at Variety, that also brought you to the festival every now and then. You've been recently named the Film Critic of the Year by the Los Angeles Press Club National's Art and Entertainment Journalism Award. That is very
nice.
cool.
Very
2014.
unexpected. Thank you. Very unexpected.
I think this is also, for those who are film critics, they know who Roger Ebert was. Roger Ebert is really like an important figure among the film critiques. Important is just not enough, I would say. In 2014, you received the inaugural Robert Ebert Award from the African American Film Critics Association. Congratulations again, although it's long ago, but great that you are the first one. And you're also an editor. You're also an author of a book about editing, which is called Filmcraft Editing. Interviewed 17 of the world's top film editors. I think the editors here are happy to hear that. And nowadays, I know you from the internet because you are very often in NPR, in the public radio programs Fresh Air and Film Week. And when I Wikipedia'd that, I found out this actually listened by many, many people, so 5 million people per week. And they have a nice logline. It says, the show that gives interview as much time as needed. So I like that.
Terry Gross, yes.
So, applause.
Thank you.
Enough of introduction, let's just jump into it. And we started already with a theater stage. You have never been on this one, but you started on many theater stages, and the first ones were more or less in the province. I don't like the word because in Germany almost everything is province, probably including Berlin. But so you started at smaller theaters. What was the feeling like? So when you were becoming an actress, did you do it on purpose so that you can fail better, try out more? What was the reason?
That's very smart to start like this, because it was a totally conscious decision, because I would have had the chance to work in Berlin as well, right after my education as an actress. And I decided not to do that because I wanted to make mistakes, and that's the actual reason why I chose to go back to Jena, because it was a very small ensemble. We were 8 people. So we could play the range of, I don't know, we could play everything, the grandmother, the child, the bat, the whatever, because, we were on so many. And also the press wasn't there. So I could really learn and I could really fail, and that's what I wanted. I thought that the pressure in Berlin was so high, especially for someone who was at the start. I didn't want to do it, it was too much for me. So that's the reason.
Yeah. And if you speak about and say you were allowed to make mistakes, what does this mean? So what is a mistake in that sense for you? Not being prepared, just trying out?
It's trying out, and it's trying out with the freedom of finally, maybe in the end, not making it right, or maybe I've overseen something that was really important, or maybe I'm just too young for the character, or whatsoever, or forget my lines on stage, or I could try and find out how this whole profession is going to work, because the education is very different from the actual job, I must say. The education is much more detailed, and people help you to find something. They don't do that anymore when you earn money. You can pay people to help you, but that's another thing. It's not even about making mistakes, but having the possibility to do it, not feeling the pressure all the time of being perfect, or people see you and then they wait for what you are doing next, or whatever. I really wanted to try in peace there.
And were you able, so since you're now working on different stages, you're working also, of course, a lot in film, were you able to keep something alive from these early days? So something that's stuck in the back of your mind and your head, something that you can use in a way today also to keep that freedom alive?
Yes, I think, but that's an inner thing that you have to do over and over again. For me, it has to do with some escape fantasies from this whole thing, to sometimes imagine what I would do if it wouldn't work anymore, and then I imagine this life that, so if I fail completely, it's not a big deal, so I can do something else. That gives me a lot of freedom to try and play the way that I want to play, and also argue with directors and, you know.
And so I understand that it also helps you to relax a little bit. Sometimes in some interview or conversation I read and listened to, you said, okay, still coming on stage is like hell. So it's like this alarming situation. Hopefully not today, but so no, does it relax you, or is it also a tension you need to stay focused?
Yeah, the thing about, I don't know the English word for Lampenfieber, but for maybe you know it.
I don't know exactly. I don't know exactly what.
Thank you.
Stage fright.
It's stage fright. It's really important to have that, but I learned from a director that I work a lot with, Johan Simons, that the worst thing that can happen is that all your attention goes to the inside, and it's supposed to be on the outside. It's supposed to be on your colleagues, on the audience, the room, whatever is happening, but not on your own feelings, what you are doing right now. So that's the point where it gets really dangerous, and also like closes your whole body and your whole system. But of course you need it to be attentive, to be awake, to have a certain amount of concentration that you definitely need. I could never play theater or on a film with my everyday body or my everyday mind that is much more relaxed, of course, than in this one.
Yeah. Okay, we will come back to that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to jump in, both about the importance of regional work, working outside of the spotlight of an intense, let's say, metropolis or concentrated area of artists, and the importance of working with generous artists. So I'm going to drop this one on you. I've been thinking about it since you invited us to this talk and how to feel better making mistakes. So when I was programming the Hamptons Festival, I was 31 years old and had gone from California to New York, and then from New York, where I was part of a failure of a big institution, the Guggenheim, and so went to the Hamptons Festival, which was a new effort for me, and a regional festival outside of New York with a lot of really intelligent people who go out there and love film, and they love international film. So I had invited this fantastic film that I had seen in Berlin called Requiem. And
I didn't go.
So we had a new showcase for emerging actors based on Shooting Stars, the actors showcase here in Berlin, and Sandra Hüller was one of these shooting stars, and who we invited to come to the Hamptons. And in my hubris, in my exuberance, in my big I'm the guy who's making this all come together, I found the hottest new talent. When I heard word that Sandra actually was ill and could not travel to the US, I was like, no, does she not understand what an opportunity? There are American agents and press, and she's really crazy not to come. So sent this back, and I received back a handwritten letter, faxed, back to the you're really old bit of this, but it was faxed to us from Sandra. The most articulate, the most generous, what are you thinking, please fuck off letter you can imagine. And it taught me, first it showed my mistake, that going outside of your humanity in the purpose of this industry is ludicrous. And you managed to...
Do you still have that?
The letter? Of course I have it. Oh, God. Of course I have it. Are you kidding?
What was I thinking?
No, it was so important for me to learn that mistake of forgetting to be a human in this. And the idea that I would never have the chance to associate with Sandra Hüller was, of course, very short-sighted, because here we sit. But in my very naive, very immature mind, as a professional at that point, I needed you, and you were there for me. So sometimes the mistakes lead to great things. So.
Nice. Okay, you're off microphone. Sebastián, from the director's point of view, so first I wanted to ask, never ever experienced acting somewhere? Have you ever tried acting yourself before becoming?
Only in real life.
Only in real life. That's good. Good answer, by the way. Good Berlin answer. But having heard this, so from your director's point of view, so what is necessary for you when you build up a new set? So literally, but also the bigger set of the film. So what is necessary for you in terms of transparency, in terms of communication, and so on, to reach this atmosphere of making mistakes? Is
Well,
okay.
I mean,
Or are you one of those guys where mistakes are not allowed?
oh no, not at all. No, no. On the contrary, I really need a very relaxed set.
Yeah.
I'm that kind of director. I have the tendency to put together, when I put together a team, I have a policy, which is, would I be glad to invite this person to my home? You know, and would I be glad to be sitting at a table with this art director, with this, you know, sound recorder, etc. And that has worked as a strategy. And that, I think, is aiming in the direction of creating a set where I can feel that I am allowed to be foolish and to be brave and to try things out and to succeed or fail in a protected environment. And then I love for the team, and especially the actors, to have that same chance, opportunity. And I would say that the greatest sparkles that I have captured here and there have come from those zones where something happened in the crossroads of what you plan and what you try out, of course. So I would say that if you're working on something like an idea, or for a film, for example, for a script, or an idea for a scene, how to film it, what to suggest to the actors, if success is guaranteed, then don't go there, you know? Yeah. I mean, the potential of failing is the best indicator that you might fail, but B, capture something that is somehow bigger than what you can plan, especially because of the co-creative quality of filmmaking. You know, filmmaking is co-creation, and so a few minds and hearts think better than one.
And talking about this moment, or this idea of collaboration, so is it already set in the beginning? When is this established? Is it the conversation you have on the table before the actual shooting starts, or how can we imagine? Probably you can give an example. It becomes a bit stressful on set. New people are coming in. There is people who probably you haven't spoken so much to. So how do you make sure that the atmosphere on set remains in the way you like it? So,
well, you pretend to be calm, and then I don't know. I mean, I think it has a lot to do with personality. You know, like I have a certain type of personality that I tend to generate this atmosphere. So it's not forced. It's natural. But yeah, I mean, Yeah, sorry.
So if a technical thing goes wrong and you've been waiting for it for 3 hours and then it doesn't come or it is broken or whatever, you would not yell at someone.
Well, I mean,
Like, you know?
3 hours?
Yeah.
You know what? I haven't been in that situation. Like, I mean, no. If something goes really wrong, I don't know. You move on and then come back to. But really, I feel that I've been quite lucky because of the collaborators. So there's always a way to find the solutions together, you know. And it's I mean, for me, directing is a lot like when you're listening to music and you listen to a note that is out of tone, and it's like, oh, that doesn't feel right, you know. And it's like, why? And usually the why. I don't usually have the answer right away, and I love to put that question and answer it together with whoever is in the co-creation process. Usually the actors, you know, and they feel it as well. There's something wrong here, so what is it? And then that exploration and that, you know, and that mistake or that failure usually leads or is hiding something else, you know. It's hiding something that you want to, discover, capture, use.
I think we also come back to that when we speak a bit more also about you and your roles in a way, so the way how trust is necessary for yourself as an actor with the role you play, but also of you working together with actors on set. There's this question for those who are working with films, not on films. So how do you sense that? Or do you sense that, Justin, probably we've spoken about like an open atmosphere, like a special way how the films are made. So what are the indicators in the way, or are there indicators when you watch films where you see, oh, this is actually, it comes from a deep source or from some space of freedom?
It's funny, it triggered, what Sebastián was saying kind of triggered my memory. Tuning. I don't think our jury president, Juliette Binoche, would mind my sharing this story. I think the filmmakers have talked about it too. I was telling her, we were talking about what is for me one of her maybe her greatest performance in Hou Xiaoxian's Flight of the Red Balloon. I love that movie, and I don't know how many have seen it. There's a scene where the piano tuner shows up, and you know, it's so many, you know, Hou Xiaoxian, this beautifully orchestrated long take, and there's just, life is just unfolding within the frame, and there's this piano tuner going about his business and working on the piano, and it's just chaos. Just this cluttered Parisian apartment and chaos, and Juliette was telling me, and I think I'd read this in interviews too, that's a real piano tuner. They didn't hire someone to play a piano tuner, and they actually waited several hours for him to show up because he was tuning pianos all over Paris. So, and Hou Xiaoxian works in such an exploratory way, and he's very much, of course, interested in a kind of unvarnished realism. And so, I just mentioned that it seemed like kind of a funny happenstance to mention that in terms of waiting, in terms of, you know, being a direct, I mean, talk about a filmmaker who is open to the film is taking shape, you know, before him. He really discovers it, you know, not just in the editing room, but even as he is making it, working sometimes in a very unscripted kind of way. I respond to that a lot. I certainly also enjoy movies in which there's a great kind of precision and a great formal kind of, you know, and care that has been clearly taken from, you know, from the early stages. But it's a funny thing because I think there is this perception of critics that we are, you know, standing here and looking down, you know, I'll do the glasses thing, right? You guys like that? You know, and giving like, you know, marks on your poise and your elocution and pointing out every little mistake that you've made. And even posing like, one of my least favorite things for critics to do is to say, you should have done this instead. I almost never try to do that. I know some critics who do that, and I absolutely fucking hate it, actually. Maybe they do, you know, maybe it can be done well, and maybe those remarks actually would come as constructive criticism. I usually try to take the movie as it is that I'm writing about, or the film, and to not judge something necessarily as a mistake. I certainly will have no problem saying if I dislike it or if I don't, you know, but I don't think it's our job to just list things like that. I also, and it's interesting too because we're, you know, people think that we are kind of pointing out mistakes, and the truth is, we also, like any of you, live in absolute terror of making mistakes ourselves, and I can talk a little bit more about that. Just, you know, kind of early on, especially when you're first starting out. How do you start out as a baby critic? You know, it's like, you know, you are sort of expected in this role to have been born with a pen in hand and, you know, an expertise, you know, all the expertise that, and the truth is, of course, it's like, no, I you know, still kind of working my way toward being that kind of elusive, having that elusive expertise.
I think within the film scene and film industry, the way films are made is nowadays much more discussed, probably more than ever. So the questions on how the atmosphere is on set, how the relation in between women and men is on set, how the balance is, and so on. And luckily, yes. When you see a film, how deep on how much you really want to know about how the film was made or who's behind it and so on, or do you see the film as a product first and try not to be too much influenced by other things around?
I feel like the answer really changes from film to film. You know, there are certain projects that I look forward to with great anticipation because I like the director or I like the actors or I like whatever, or even certain below line, you know, cinematographers even. And yet I try to. That doesn't necessarily mean that I will go out and read everything about it. You know, and it was funny kind of preparing for our jury competition. First off, it was wonderfully liberating to come here and feel like, oh, I don't have to write about any of these movies yet, anyways. You know, maybe down the road. And so it's very liberating to not have to do that. And I try to go in. Sometimes I'll read the book, not always. Sometimes I will have read the book already and I can't unread it, as some people have suggested I should, in order to have the purest reaction possible. But I do try to have as close a reaction to anyone going into a movie would have. You know, I think that's important to not impose too many expectations on the material beforehand.
And if you see a film, do you of a certain director and you kind of don't know him or her, do you see the other films to create something like a bigger picture, or do you take each film as something individual?
If I'm writing about a film by a particular director and I don't know their work, it's sometimes the deadlines, are constant, and you don't always have the luxury of time to do nearly as much research. I had this dream where I only have to write one thing a month, and I could spend that whole month just kind of doing a lot of homework and reading every book, and it's just not possible. I mean, I guess I could do it, but I wouldn't have a job. So, you try, you fake it every so often. You kind of oh yes, and this, in his, debut film, and people will assume you've seen it, or maybe they won't. I don't know. I really shouldn't have said that, probably.
Whoa, did you hear that?
Mistakes! No, I'm not saying which ones, though. No, it's there's an element of, it doesn't necessarily, so, but you try. You absolutely do try. You really, because, I think, yes.
I don't ask you whether you've seen all their films.
But I also meant it's not a laboratory. It's like what we experience now. We watch movies in very different surroundings. You cannot create a situation where everyone has the same, or you have the same amount of information about somebody. That's all something that we just have to accept, and I guess that's what it's about, to trust the conversation between us, to trust your own perception is the word, I guess, of things, your experience with things, and now I talk about your talk, but sorry.
No, that's absolutely true. I think it's funny because I started off writing for a trade, for Variety, where you were expected to have the correct opinion, the widely accepted opinion. And I think it's important to kind of break that a little bit and to realize, sometimes people ask me, this idea that are your reviews objective? And it's well, there's no such thing. There's absolutely no such thing. It's a contradiction. And so I obviously want something, when I write something, it's nice when people resonate with that and people agree with it. But at the end of the day, I don't think I'm really beholden to any opinion except my own. And it's important to just, it is a conversation. Thankfully, I am not the only voice in it, and so there should be a lot of disagreement.
And I think there's a real risk, especially within criticism and, let's say, cinema historicization or curation, to try and create a linear narrative for any artist. Because what you end up doing is saying then when they go outside of this expectation, that then they are making a mistake, right? And it's actually, I think, a fault of auteurism. And auteurism, in a way, is a mistake of cinephilia, or at least saying that auteurism is the only way to be a cinephile, meaning you can only appreciate a director if she stays in her canon, if she stays in her lane. Because the minute she goes outside of her lane, oh, well, then she's made a huge mistake. She should go back in her lane and stay there. We had this with Wim, you know. It's when he made Pina, when he started exploring 3D. It's like, well, what is Wim Wenders? 3D? What? No. Wim was exploring, and he was changing, and he was evolving. And the people who were rejecting that weren't actually always watching the films and understanding this evolution. They were saying, Wim, get back in your Wim lane. You know, we have decided what you are, and you're not doing that anymore. And that's our mistake, not his.
Yeah, I agree. I think we'd love to show a clip. And I think we start with a film that is fond to us and hopefully still also to you. It's Requiem.
Little Sandra.
Sandra, be prepared. And before we go into this role, back into this role, which is actually, her name that day is Michaela Klingler. And I went back to IMDb because in many cases, these role names that you play at least are there with the first and the family name. So it's Michaela Klingler, and in den Gängen it's Marion Koch. And in Toni Erdmann, it's Ines Conradi. So these are so beautiful names.
Yeah.
So German names, by the way, but also I immediately imagine a character. So you can tell us what the Michaela Klingler character is after we've seen the clip. It's right in the middle of the film. Just go ahead. It's clip number 2. So Sandra, a very complex character, Michaela Klingler, probably a character which has likable moments, likable elements, parts, and some you might have difficulties to relate to. I don't know. You have to tell me. How did you relate with this, Michaela? What was the first handshake with this character?
Oh, wow. Yeah, the first handshake was reading the script, and then I said I cannot do it because it's too much, and I don't know how to make this journey believable. How could I find the material inside myself to do that? And then some things happened, and then we did a lot of casting, and we tried things out, and then I realized, okay, it's probably possible. I liked her from the beginning to the end. I think that it's one of my most loved Begegnungen, what's that? Encounters of my professional life. Because she is actually looking for something. There are things happening to her and she's diagnosed in a wrong way. But she's looking for the solution for this problem all the time. She's never hurting somebody on purpose or anything. She's just trying to find her way, and not many people are very helpful on this journey. So there were a lot of handshakes, and we were very close, which was a bit dangerous. But yeah, I liked this work very much, and especially this clip, because that's one of the parts of the movie where, for years, I thought I didn't get the point, and I think very much later, I realized that that's what it's about. She cannot make herself heard at that moment. She cannot find the person that is understanding what she wants to say, that is making her feel safe or making her feel seen or whatever. So this feeling remained, obviously, in my body, that there is no chance to express yourself in a proper way. So it is completely unsatisfied. And that's funny that these things remain. But looking at it, I see, of course, it works in a way, and I see a person who is trying something. So, yeah. But there, I really wanted. I wanted to cry so hard in the scene because it meant so much to me, and it didn't work. Nothing. There was nothing going on. I was just going more angry and angry and bored and bored and bored. And I was also really tired because it was a lot of things we had to do in a very short time, with a high intensity and little sleep and little food, because I had to lose weight because the character is she in a worse and worse condition. So that's that, and that's what I had to learn to accept. Some things, and that's also something that is stuck with me for years now. The things that happen on set with a character, they are not predictable at all. The only thing I can do, of course, we rehearse sometimes, we have castings, I know my colleagues, I am in a certain condition when I work, okay? But there's so much coincidence or so much, I don't want to get in the wrong direction, but so much universe going on at that moment when people get creative and they get together, and when they look at each other, and somebody comes from there and somebody comes from a very different place, and suddenly there is a match and you don't know why. You cannot prepare for that, ever, never, ever. You can just open up and say, yes, I want to experience something. That's it.
I think you also said in an interview that you like to reach the point beyond making mistakes. So like going really like beyond that point where you judge yourself or be judged by others. Is this true? And what does this mean for the relationship with, for example, the director?
That has so much to do with trusting each other and trusting the instinct of the other person that you are working with. Also, if it goes maybe in a way that you don't understand in the first place, to say, okay, there's a movement that I choose to follow it. I don't know where it's going, but I choose to follow it. And that is the point where you cannot ever be wrong. You just can't. When you are in contact with yourself and you're in contact with the person you are with during the day or sometimes night, then there is no such thing as going wrong, I think.
I'd like to show a next clip right away, so because I'm interested also in how your relationship with your actors is. It's from Fantastic Woman. It's a bit longer session. Excerpt is clip number 3, please. Now it's getting dark again. You're waiting for the back. Maybe I'm wrong, but when I saw the scene also, I had the feeling somehow it stands for how you create relationships with your actors. So the conversation, the topics, and how it blows someone away towards the end. So is it true? Tell us a little bit about how you create relationships with your protagonists, in this particular case also with Daniela Vega.
I would say that in all the films I've made, and I realized of this like recently, you know, I have always been interested in the crossroads between the character and what the human being that is interpreting it is. You know, I would say that characters are like, you know, when rockets take off, and you see that the base falls away, and then, you know, for me, writing a character is kind of like that. It's the energy, it's the fuel, but then, as Sandra was saying, there is a moment where you just need to forget about them, you know, and what I am trying to capture is whatever that person brings to the game, so to say, you know. So I was interested in Daniela, which is the name of the actress, and Marina is the character, and especially in this film, because she's a transgender woman, and the film is it is about, you know, the world is. She's ready for the world, but the world is not ready for her. So her identity is at the center. The oscillation between both dimensions is always there. So you're watching, if you see the film, maybe you will watch the two things at the same time, kind of like that paradox. And I would say that search, you know, trying to capture something that is in between what the character is and whatever essentially that person also is, in A Fantastic Woman is really like somehow a central topic, you know. So you're watching both things at the same time. And briefly talking about mistakes, you know, in the script, she was a popular music singer. And then I met Daniela, and she is in real life, and this is to put an example precisely of what you were asking me about. In real life, she's a lyrical singer, so that's her voice, you know. So I was like, Daniela was like, when she read the script, she said, I was living here, and I sent it to her, and she said to me, you're insane. Like, you want me to, I don't even know how to drive, you know, and you want me to drive, you want me to fly, you want me to sing popular music. And I was like, of course, I mean, you're a lyrical singer, how, you will learn, we will help you. And she was like, no, it's impossible for me to sing popular because of my formation, my education as a singer. And I was like, yeah, well, you learn. Mistake. And then we were getting close to production, and it wasn't working at all. It was like, I don't know, like when Andrea Bocelli sings popular music, you know, like, whoa. I was like, oh.
It could be a mistake.
And she came to the office, I would say 2 weeks before shooting, slammed the door behind her dramatically, like she is wonderful, and she sang an aria, this aria, a cappella, to me. And I was like, you know?
Blown away.
Blown away, and I said to her, go away, I need to rewrite, you know? I hate you, and I love you at the same time. Yeah. So in a certain way, that has been a strategy to always understand the device of the script, the device of what happens in the set as a zone of flexibility, where you can kind of like do Tai Chi, you know, like you phagocytate what the actors bring, and you use it for the complexity of the film as an asset, you know. So yeah, there are no errors. There are only opportunities, you know.
Great, thank you. You can prepare yourself if you have questions, because we have microphones, I think, on all balconies, and about 20 minutes left. But I have one question for Raj. So, because the MoMA, this wonderful MoMA, when you came to the MoMA, so it's in a way Thierry Formaux would say it's the Louvre of film. Probably he says about these things about his own festival. And so probably it was something where people expect, okay, here is the Valhalla of films, here's the big ones. How is it possible to keep the spirit that we've talked about today alive and also bring it probably into an institution like this. You said when we were at this mixed film festival, it's like explode an institution like the MoMA from inside. So how did you explode
Have you seen that trailer?
Yeah.
So he's mentioning when I was director of the Mix Festival, which is a small experimental queer festival in Lower Manhattan at the time. And we made a trailer for the festival, and it was literally Jim Hubbard, who was a filmmaker and the founder of the festival, throwing a Molotov cocktail in the air, and it lands on MoMA, and it explodes in color and gayness. So I guess I'm the Molotov cocktail, and I have since exploded in color and gayness at MoMA. But actually, so I can tell you an anecdote which relays this in a practical sense. It seems superficial, but actually it's not. So as you mentioned, my predecessor was there for nearly 30 years. And I made a mistake when they first called. And they first called and said, hey, we want to interview you. I was at the Hamptons to be the new chief curator of film at MoMA. And I'm not a film historian. I'm not a film archivist. Two important things about this job, in a way. I love contemporary film, and P.S., I'm 34 years old. You're not serious. You just want to steal my young ideas and implement them. So I said no. A year later, they called back, and they were still interested. And lucky for me that my stupid mistake of not even engaging the first time out of arrogance or whatever it was. So I went in, 15 interviews, I got the job, it's crazy. But the one thing, and I'll give Sandra some credit because she clearly was part of this, but other artists and people that I'd worked with since, Bilan Speck here and Dieter, be true to yourself. And MoMA, at that point, it has changed a lot in the last 12 years, was essentially a bank for art. Right? So everybody in senior leadership wore a suit and tie every day to work, right? It was incredibly formal. And this is already well into the 21st century. So for the interviews, I wore my suit. It was the suit I wore for my high school graduation when I was 16 years old, right? It still fit, yeah. But I had no other suit. Why would I have a suit? I worked in the film industry, this is not a super formal business. So the first week after I had the job, I wore a suit and tie every day to work, and I just realized I'm being a clown. I am dressing up to not be myself, to look like some guy who should work at MoMA and should be someone's 20 people's boss, right? So I stopped. All I did was I stopped wearing a tie. And it made the New York Society newspaper press that Raj Roy is the no-tie guy at MoMA. And of course, that was slightly humiliating, but also like a badge, right? Like, okay, I have your attention. And what was I really trying to say by this is your formality is fraudulent. It's not true. And you're not being true to art. You're not being true to what's happening. You are disengaged. If an artist walked into my office, a filmmaker, and saw me sitting there behind a big white desk with a tie, I mean, in my mind, A, they would be intimidated, and B, they would see, who's this kid dressed up like his dad? So I'm very proud to say, in this day and age, 12 years later, not one person on staff wears a suit and tie every day to work, including my boss, the director of the museum. And that's a reflection of, I think, an embrace of informality, an embrace of direct engagement, rather than this wall of formality between those of us who are in service of artists and the artists themselves. And that of course, again, is a very superficial act on my part in a sense, but it has profound implications in terms of how we're embracing artists. And this year we're reopening the museum after a huge expansion, and we're taking down the entire collection and we're reinstalling it. And from the first moment you come to art history, you'll see women and you'll see non-white people and you'll see a different type of modernist experience, which is more true. It's a different kind of truth. But in unveiling these different kinds of truths has, I suppose, been my mission there. And I also don't have to wear a tie every day, which is nice. So.
Thank you. So here's a question in the second row.
Yeah, hello. I have
Hi.
Hi. I have a question about the issue of improvisation. A lot of people make movies with improvisation, but they have no idea. They are not inspired. They think, okay, to actors, please improvise. I hope mistakes happen and something inspiration came. It often ends in very boring movies, too long. But sometimes, yeah, I want to talk about the difference between this, waiting for mistakes, or being prepared, like you said, that you improvise in a character and you're so prepared that nothing can happen. You can use every mistake. Perhaps something about that, if you get the question.
Do you want to start?
I can try. The moment you talk about it, I know the difference, but I don't know. Maybe that's also connected to the field of criticism. It's mostly about observing what's going on in the first place. It's not about judging what's going on. When you judge somebody who is creating in your presence, they can go home. It's like you cannot do that. You can just say I saw this or I saw that. And I think that's the same with improvisation. I'm not a big fan, I must say. I don't like it so much. Because I'm not an author. I cannot write. I depend on people who have thought of something that I can give life into, that I can make people believe that it's real, or I can make people think with it. But I cannot create words. So I could improvise maybe with my body or whatever. But if you have a situation like that, I think the point is that, yeah, before you've been working so long on the topic, you've been reading things together, you've been watching movies, you've been talking, so your mind is full of the thing that is supposed to be played or that is supposed to be discussed, that there you can start to observe what's going on and not to say, okay, because some directors make the mistake, they want improvisation, but they also have a certain goal of what is supposed to happen. So that's not working. So either you have the freedom and the openness in your mind to really let people grow in front of your eyes, or you don't have it, then you shouldn't try, I think. So it's about preparation, not preparation in a way of I learn this and then I do it like that, but to fill yourself up so much that you can open up and something is coming out. So that's it. And then you have to wait and see, I think.
Yeah, and when you're directing, it's funny because, in Day for Night, the Truffaut film, you can really understand what directing is. It's saying yes or no during a month, basically. They say, oh, do you want this bottle or that bottle? And you go, that one. And if this is black, is it okay, or do you prefer it red? And you go, red. And to address what Sandra was saying, that in a certain way is like improvising, it's like you are reacting, you're responding, but because you are prepared, because you have inhabited that world, you have been reading, you have been fantasizing, dreaming, studying, you have been solving problems, finding solutions, etc. So you can afford being lost, so to say, because you are in search mode, So there's again, it's not that you're really lost. And when it comes to acting, my first film is a completely improvised film. Based in a 12-page script without any written dialogue, where the what was there, but the how, we didn't know it. And the story happened in 3 days, and we shot it in 3 days without any hurry. But that was that device, and in a certain way, it is like instant dramaturgy. But I was willing to build a film with that rawness and that vibe, so to say. And And I have been slowly maturing, as you can see. And now what I do is I love to leave some open spaces. And I think I invented something which is as opposed to saying cut, I say, don't cut. Wait, and keep rolling. And because you can afford that with digital, the tension is there. No one goes in the set and to correct the hair or anything. Everyone's kind of like, ah. And I say, why don't you do this or that? And why don't you try this variation? Or why don't you say that when you said that part? And so I use that. It's almost like a jazz attitude, So it is somewhere in the middle of absolute preparation and searching mode. And to finish, a book I love about shamanism in Mexico. They talk about the warrior attitude, the real warrior, as a way of life. And he says a real warrior should run through the night, like through the jungle, in complete, like absolutely contained and yet abandoned. And I think that paradox is exactly what we all look for when we are in that space of where you need things to manifest, and so you're prepared, and yet you're waiting for something that you don't absolutely know what it will be, so. Did I answer the question at all?
Wonderful answer, thank you very much. Is there someone on the balcony, first balcony with a question? No, then we go for you, please.
Hello. I have a question to Rajendra, MoMA curator. Thank you. Actually, I realize since 1990s, more and more video artists started to make the narrative film. Since Douglas Gordon's age and to now Stephen McQueen is almost one of the most successful narrative film artists. I would like to ask you, how do you have some idea how about video artists develop the cinematic language? Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned Steve because he is the most adept, Steve McQueen, the most adept I've ever witnessed in an artist being able to navigate the infrastructure, let's say, of the art world and the infrastructure of pure Hollywood, right? I mean, Widows is a big Hollywood movie. But I think that the biggest challenge in a way has been for those two infrastructures, and that's code for economies. Really, because there's an economy within the art world of you are valid financially in a certain way. So my earliest example working at MoMA with an artist who primarily is in, let's say, video art or video installation was Isaac Julian. And Isaac has created remarkable installation pieces, most recently with Maggie Chung, but he's also a very accomplished filmmaker, documentarian and narrative filmmaker. But he was having very difficult time navigating between how do I literally get these things produced. And I think that's a challenge for us. The challenge is to get out of the way of the artists, not insist on our structures, right? Not insist on you must make a work that fits into my financial equation, right? So I can pay you to do this if you make a video installation, but I can't pay you to do this if you make a narrative film. I think that's incumbent upon us, those of us who have presenting organizations, funding organizations, to try and keep pace with where artists go. Again, because people like Steve and Isaac and many others are creating fantastic works in both realms. And there is a risk that by saying, no, you must fit into this box, that we limit that. So it's a challenge we're trying to take on very consciously. And again, back to my formality thing, leave our formality behind, leave our boxes behind, and try and be a bit more open.
Thank you. I think the microphone is already here. Here we go. Try.
Okay, hi.
Here we go.
My question is, how would you deal with a situation where you're not a fan of each other, the director is not a fan of the actor is not a fan of the director. There may or may not be trust, okay? You're not killing each other, but there's chemistry, and there's like tremendous negative chemistry. And maybe there has been a failed project, and maybe you have come out of it hating the guts of each other. Now, this is part 2, you know, some time has gone by, and you still think there's chemistry, there's something. You want to go back, you want to talk, you want to make sure you don't rip each other's hair apart if you come together the next time. Well, you get what I'm saying.
I think I would never, really never, ever, ever want to get in that situation, because that is a situation, you know, connection, yes or no, whatever, but if people hate each other, they shouldn't work together. I don't understand the concept of they shouldn't. It's not that somebody has to be a fan of somebody, but he must be in some way interested in what the person is doing and how, and try to follow the path likewise. But I hope you've never been in this situation. I hope you never get there, because if you should really try to get out of it, like I think also in life. I mean, that's not something that we should really spend time with. And I know that we can misunderstand this kind of connection and think, yeah, maybe it's interesting and maybe I get some energy from it. But you will never feel safe in such a place, and you will never be able to show the inside of yourself or the inside of a character, and you will also never be able to make mistakes, because when somebody hates you, you can never look at what you are doing with respect or with even love or whatever. I think, to me, it's even unthinkable. My body is reacting, but with the thought of it, I wish, yeah, this shouldn't take place. But if you are, and run. No, if this happened and you get into a situation like this, I've never been inside some that didn't work out as all of us wished, but we didn't hate each other. We were maybe unnerved by each other or by the way that somebody is doing things or not. Then I think it's all about trying to find the spaces where you can be on your own and try to fuel yourself up with self-consciousness, esteem, whatever. Talk to people that you like to tell you you are not as shit as he or she says. That's probably important, to try to step back from that. But you cannot break a contract, obviously, not in movies. No.
So there's time for one last question. Balcony 1 is not so active today, I have to say. A bit disappointed. So here we go, in the middle.
Thank you very much. It's been very enjoyable this morning. My question is, a film is really big, and it has lots of scenes in it, and you can't treat every scene like it's magic. Do you have like a hierarchy of scenes? When you look at a script, you go, well, okay, these are the really emotionally powerful scenes, and you work kind of like down the list and going, well, this scene is, like in the clip that we saw from Requiem, there was a scene where you got out of the car and you walked to the door. And then there was the scene inside with the priest. And obviously, then there's a hierarchy there. And does that, am I kind of like making sense? And if you do have a hierarchy of your scenes, like, how do you work with that? Like, how does that affect the way that you act or you direct once you've created this hierarchy?
No. I mean, every scene is essential. At least you think so while you're shooting. It might not make it to the final edit, but if you're shooting it, you are really needing it because you could be shooting something else. And we're always running late and everything is super expensive, so you better be shooting something that you believe in, you know? So things should, you know, every narrative should flow and vibrate. And sometimes some scenes might seem less important because there is maybe less drama, but they might be serving rhythm, continuity, the musicality of the calligraphy of the film, for example. So no, everything is essential and crucial, and nothing should be treated like, you know, oh, we need this because we need to get to the next big important moment. Everything should capture you and should hypnotize you and should somehow make you somehow trigger your inner, you know, fantasies, desires as a spectator. So not to talk about the film, the fragment, I mean, I didn't make that film, of course, but I was immediately captivated by the car, you know, by the costumes, by the rhythm, by the way in which it cut to a smaller size frame. I was in it, you know, and I don't know if the effect would have, I mean, I'm sure it would have been different without that way of accessing the narrative.
Also, one thing, whenever I try to take things easy at some point, when I thought, oh, today is this, and okay, I was always wrong, because these things never worked. When I thought it's something that I could just like slip out of my, and especially this one with how she goes to the house, we've been doing this a lot, because we didn't know if she would slam the door of the car because she's angry and she shows the father, or does she show the father that she really tries to be a nice girl with this priest, or how quick is she going, how fueled is she already, or is she trying to pretend that everything is fine? You know, that's walking is not easy. Yeah. So I agree.
So before we round off and let you go back to the jury, I just want to slam in one final clip because it has the kick-ass mentality we like, and it has the just do it mentality I think we had here. So before we say goodbye, let's sing a little bit together. Clip number 4. Whitney Schnuck.
Thank you so much. I will tell Maren that it's still working. No, it's funny because we were all really exhausted. It was a very small actual apartment in Bucharest. It was really, really hot. There were a lot of extras there who played the family, and I had to sing it without the piano. I had the piano in my ear, but nobody was hearing it. So they were like, okay, what is she doing? And that's what they looked at me like that. It was like, yeah, okay. And I thought at that point that Ines is so exhausted that she wouldn't even make an effort. So I sang it like, I think, I don't know, 5 times, like, so I was like showing the tiredness, and I thought it was an ending point in the story, and after that everything would be completely different. And also I didn't feel the urge to impress the father at any, you know, there was nothing. And Maren tried to tell me, okay, yeah, it's not, we should try something else, but I don't know what it is. And then I tried again, and the people were looking the same way, like, okay, yeah. And but we didn't really find the entrance to we didn't find the clue. And then they said, okay, maybe you should look at it. I normally don't like to, not because of vain reasons or whatever. It's just like it I don't know, it confuses me. But at the point I said, okay, show me please what is going wrong. And then I understood that it's just boring. There was nothing going on. It was just boring. I thought I was showing the inside of my character and how desperate she is, but it was not visible at any point. And then we decided, because when we rehearsed the song before and I tried to learn to sing it, of course we did a very Las Vegas, what I imagine. I come from Eastern Germany. You know, I thought, okay, then let's do something that they will never forget. And then we did it twice, and that's the material that Mar and Ada probably chose at that point. But it had to get over the point of exhaustion, get over the point of not feeling able to do it, get over the point of boredom, and blah, 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 blah. Although we didn't know what it was. And when this take started, I got so excited to do it. It was like I had done it for the first time, but it wasn't. So the risk of doing it that way was so high, because I could have failed completely. I don't know if I could have reached that tone or whatever. It was really risky, and I could have been really foolish. But it worked out, and I still have fun looking at it. So thank you.
Thank you very much. So thank you very much for taking your time away from the jury work. So thank you also for sharing mistakes so openly and making a lot of with us, and also in future in your films and in your work and in your museum and here on stage. Thank you also to you. Let's have a good week. Back to work, I guess. But I'm totally confident you will do the right decisions. Thank you.